Welcome. I'm Doug Morgan, and you're listening to Uncommon Sense, where we hunt for the truth in the topics you're not supposed to talk about, Christianity and politics. Hey everyone, it is Friday, and on Fridays here on the podcast, we do FOMO Friday. We don't want to have that fear of missing out. So instead of listening to propaganda media, what we do is we bring you the stories of the week that you should probably at least know a little bit about. And we have a few of them this week. Kind of interesting stuff I think you're going to like. And from a series of articles from the Daily Wire comes this first one, and it has to do with AI and hackers. Chinese hackers unleashed the first autonomous AI cyber attack against dozens of U.S. companies and government agencies earlier this fall, with artificial intelligence executing somewhere between about 80 and 90% of the operations at physically impossible speed. So we know that they were AI. They could not be human. The suspected Chinese state-sponsored hackers manipulated Anthropic AI coding tool Claude to target roughly 30 entities, including major technology corporations, financial institutions, chemical manufacturing companies, and U.S. government agencies, according to a detailed report published by Anthropic. Now, in what the company calls the first documented case of a large-scale cyber attack executed without substantial human intervention, the Chinese hackers bypassed Claude's safeguards by claiming to be part of a credible cybersecurity firm conducting defensive testing. The social engineering of Claude provided enough cover for the hackers to evade detection by the company, get this, for months, allowing the hackers to freely manipulate the coding tool into autonomously performing complex infrastructure techniques more efficiently than any human operator. This campaign, this is a quote, this campaign demonstrates that the barriers to performing sophisticated cyber attacks have dropped substantially, and we can predict that they'll continue to do so. This is what Anthropic warned in its report. It also said that threat actors can now use agentic AI systems to do the work of entire teams of experienced hackers with the right setup. The attack required minimal human intervention, as we said, just relying on Claude's agent, a form of AI that can operate autonomously for long periods without human intervention to substantially ease the workload of the hackers. Here again, another quote: analysis of operational tempo, request volumes, and activity patterns confirmed that AI executed approximately 80 to 90% of all tactical work independently, with humans serving as strategic supervisory roles. This is what the report states. And it added that each hacking campaign only required 4 to 6 critical decision points from human operators. So literally, almost everything was done by AI. Quote, the AI made thousands of requests per second, an attack speed that would have been for human hackers simply impossible to match. Once safeguards had been bypassed, Claude autonomously probed for vulnerabilities in the selected targets and wrote custom exploit code to harvest usernames and passwords, and exfiltrated the data with minimal human intervention. So it took that data and was able to get it out just basically by itself. Hackers have been utilizing AI for years to perform minor tasks, such as scanning the web for vulnerable sites and managing phishing attacks and things like that. However, the most recent hacking campaign has proven that AI is not far off from conducting fully autonomous cyber attacks, only held back by inclinations that hinder autonomous offensive capabilities and safeguards implemented by companies like Anthropic. Anthropic is a company that basically is leading the way when it comes to cybersecurity and trying to combat these type of things. Now, the company reports that only 4 of the targeted institutions were successfully breached by the Chinese attacks, which managed to steal troves of sensitive information. The U.S. government was not among the institutions breached, though. So that's what Anthropic told the Wall Street Journal. They also managed to stop the attack before more companies were breached, banning the hackers' accounts and updating the methods used to identify similar attacks in the future. Now, Anthropic's strategy is to focus on using Claude to identify vulnerabilities in its own defenses, thereby staying a step ahead of the malicious hackers who exploit AI for these attacks. Quote, "These kinds of tools will just speed up things," is what Logan Graham told the Journal. Logan Graham leads the team that tests for vulnerabilities in Claude and that type of thing. Quote, "If we don't enable defenders to have a very substantial permanent advantage, I'm concerned that we may lose this race." So, yeah, something to keep an eye on. Obviously, this is just one of those things that it's kind of hard to wrap your brain around, some of the AI type stuff. But obviously, we need to stay a step ahead, and it looks like, at least at this point, we were able to catch this, even though they did go on for months in some cases. We were able to catch it and repel it. So keep an eye on that one. Around the globe, we have some news. This week, Colonel Ibrahim Agli Komanzani is how you pronounce that. He's an Iranian Air Force officer, and he hurled one of the boldest public military challenges to the Islamic Republic since its founding in 1979. This is big, as you probably have heard. Iran not doing so hot right now. Of course, we went in, we took out their nuclear program, and that was excellent by President Donald Trump. That helped lead to peace in the Middle East, particularly when it came to Israel and the war they were having there. And so after that happened, well, things have been spiraling when it comes to Iran. In fact, even there was some stories here recently where the leader of Iran had to leave Tehran, which is their capital, because their main capital city just doesn't have running water, and so things were getting really bad. And their infrastructure is it's just not there. This Muslim country is all about war and having these proxies around the world that do their terror bidding, and infrastructure just not a priority. And so anyway, things not doing too well right there. But when things like that happen, when you start to see countries that spiral like this, well, particularly when they're countries like this one where their leadership is not good at all, you kind of see this is an opportunity for some people to stand up. Now, they're doing this risking their life, but this is what's starting to happen. Standing beside the pre-revolutionary sun and lion, or they call it lion and sun flag, it's a powerful symbol of the Pahlavi monarchy, which Khamenei called for a 1 million man march in Iran. Can you imagine? A 1 million man march in Iran on November 16th to begin a national transition toward a new government. His statement involving a divine duty and historical legitimacy, framed his defense as a moral and patriotic mission rather than an act of rebellion. So he's coming at it from a little different angle, and we'll see what happens here. Kamanzani began by highlighting two truths, as he put it, meant to connect Iran's present struggle with the legitimacy of its pre-1979 constitutional monarchy. First, he recalled that during the 1979 revolution, the late Shah, the Shah of Iran, if you remember, ordered the imperial armed forces not to fire on civilians, underscoring that sovereignty belonged to the people, not the monarchy. And second, he credited the remnants of the imperial Air Force with saving the country during the Iran-Iraq war, implying that the Islamic regime owes its survival to patriots loyal to the old order. Now, from this foundation, he laid out his case. These two things here. He addresses and the escalated explicit call for the overthrow of the Islamic Republic, and he warned personnel across the military, police, intelligence, and judiciary that continuing to suppress protests would make them enemies of the nation and traitors before God, declaring the current clerical regime false and criminal. So, I mean, these are fighting words here. He urged soldiers to stand with the people rather than enforce repression. Should Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi, heir to the exiled monarchy, declare an armed resistance necessary, Kamanzani said that it would then be both a right and a duty for Iranians to rise up militarily. His closing words praised national sacrifice and invoked symbols of imperial Iran, and his appeal resonated with a growing revival of monarchist sentiment inside Iran. Just days before his declaration, two men dressed in Iran army uniforms were arrested in Tehran's metro after publicly displaying the old flag, which a scene captured on social media and swiftly suppressed, of course, by the authorities. Such acts have become more frequent since the 2022 Masa Amini protests, where the banned flag reemerged as a secular and a nationalist symbol rejecting this Islamic Republic. So if you're against this Islamic Republic, you fly the old flag of the monarchy. So yeah, this is definitely one of those things that that you see happening when a country is almost down and out. And Iran is definitely in that spot right now. But I would say that these guys that are raising, the trying to raise up, a rebellion here against Khomeini and the regime. I mean, they're putting their life on the line. These guys are definitely in it all the way with both feet, and we'll see how far this goes. Let's pray that they are successful. I mean, again, it's still going to be a Muslim country, but the current regime is just absolutely horrible. So speaking of dead things, things that have died, from this point forward, you'll have to pay more than a penny for your thoughts. Yep. The U.S. Mint made the final penny on Wednesday, ending the coin's 232-year run. The U.S. Mint said in a release that the final penny was struck in Philadelphia by United States Treasurer Brandon Beach. Quote, while general production concludes today, the penny's legacy lives on. This is what Christy McNally, acting mint director, said. She said, as its usage in commerce continues to evolve, its significance in America's story will endure. Now, if you want the mint's 2 cents on the issue, production costs are to blame for the penny's extinction. U.S. Mint's release stated that over the past decade, the cost of making each penny has risen from 1.42 cents to 3.69 cents. So it costs over 3.5 cents for every penny that they make. So Business Insider reported that the government will save roughly about $50 million annually each year by ceasing the penny production. There are still about 300 billion pennies in circulation, so I wouldn't be, stashing them away thinking that they're going to go up in value anytime soon. But the mint stated that because the supply exceeds the amount needed for commerce, pennies can still be used. So stores can still price items in 1 cent increments. So don't throw away your piggy bank just yet. But President Trump ordered the penny to be canceled back in February of this year, and he said on Truth Social, quote, for far too long, the United States has minted pennies which literally cost us more than 2 cents. In 2024 annual report, the U.S. Mint reported that the cost of producing pennies increased by 20.2% in that year alone. Quote, this is so wasteful. I have instructed my Secretary of U.S. Treasury to stop producing new pennies, is what Trump declared. So 9 months later, it did. At the mint, where the country's lowest value coin has been made since 1793. They've been making pennies there. 1793. The penny entered circulation after the Coinage Act was passed in 1792. President Abraham Lincoln has been the face of the 1 cent coin since 1909. Lincoln was the first president featured on a coin in honor of his 100th birthday. And the tail side of the most recent coin represents Lincoln's presentation of the United States as a single country. Now, over the 232 years lifespan of the penny, the design has evolved. The first penny showed a woman with her hair flowing, which the U.S. Mint said symbolized liberty. In its original form, the penny was larger, actually, completely made out of copper. Today's design is a mix of copper and zinc, featuring smaller elements and things. But more fun facts about it. Back in 1943, the majority of pennies were made of zinc-coated steel in order to conserve copper needed for the munitions during World War II. Fast forward to 2017, when pennies made in Philadelphia had a P marking on them for the first time to celebrate the mint's 225th anniversary. And with billions of pennies still around, who knows what history will find in your coin purse, your change jar, or in between your couch cushions. So yep, kind of a landmark time. We'll see how the stores deal with this. Obviously, they're going to have to round up or whatever to the nickel when it comes to your change and that type of thing. But more and more people are not using actual coins anyway in today's day and age. And so we'll see how all that plays out. Well, there was a story that came out this last Saturday by The Blaze, and it was kind of interesting. And there's been some follow-up to the story. So let's get into that. The man who owned the Metro card that law enforcement believed was linked to a person of interest in the January 6th pipe bomb case spoke with the Daily Wire on Tuesday, saying it was not his neighbor who used the transit card, but in fact a friend of his. The man, an Air Force veteran who requested anonymity to avoid his name being linked to a serious crime, lived next door to a Capitol Police officer named in the story by the Blaze on Saturday. The report said that computerized gate analysis suggested that the person who planted the pipe bombs at the Democratic and the Republican National Committees on January 5th, we've covered that here on the podcast. Well, they moved with the same mannerisms as a particular female Capitol Police officer who later shot non-lethal rounds at protesters of January 6th. So they had a computer analyze things here and found that this person had, the Blaze said up to a 94% certainty that this was the person who planted the pipe bomb, or the two pipe bombs. The theory gained secondary support from the fact that she lived next to someone who had already separately landed on the law enforcement's radar in the case, something that seems like a mathematically impossible coincidence, of course. And the Daily Wire confirmed that that law enforcement suspected a particular Falls Church, Virginia man's Metro card of being linked to the case. And also that the Capitol Police officer was, in fact, his neighbor, literally sharing a wall with him, in fact. So they went to the address and interviewed the man, who said that it was his understanding that the neighboring unit was, in fact, occupied by two Capitol Police officers. The female officer told him her romantic partner was on the force too. But he does not believe his Metro card was used by the police officer on January 5th. This is what he told the Daily Wire. He said that it was used by a childhood friend who traveled from the South to attend Trump's rally and stayed with him to save money. The Air Force vet let him borrow his card and picked him up from the Metro station in Virginia after the rally. And he said that both men were Trump supporters. About a week later, in 2021, he got a call from law enforcement. He believes it was Metro Transit Police asking who used the card. Well, former FBI employee Kyle Seraphin told the Daily Wire 2 years ago that he was assigned to stake out the address because the FBI believed a person of interest in the bomb case swiped through the subway gates using a card owned by the man. The Air Force veteran, a tall black man, immediately gave the police the name of his friend, who is a white man, about 5'10", 5'11", right in there. Quote, other than that call from the transit police, that's all I've heard about it, he said. The Air Force vet said he went to school with the man decades ago, but had not remained in touch until reconnecting over social media. The vet is 66 years old, so that would make his friend about the same age. And he said that the friend spent large portions of each year in foreign countries spreading Christianity. So it sounds like a missionary or somebody. He said he would probably be the last person on God's green earth that would be involved in doing anything like that. After receiving the call from the police, the flummoxed vet called his friend to tell him what had happened. Quote, I said, do you have a secret life that I don't know about? And he said no. By that time, law enforcement had already made contact with the friend as well. And quote, when I told him about it, he told me that he did have a conversation with those folks. The police seemingly ruled him out as a suspect, though. The Air Force vet declined to name the Southern evangelical, but he said that he had provided the name to the police and would fully cooperate with any law enforcement or court inquiry. He said that the friend came back to town for Donald Trump's second inauguration, where he annoyed the vet by insisting on wearing a Trump hat in the deep blue areas, causing drama. Quote, I felt like, oh my God, how did I get myself involved in this? He said. So after that, the veteran blocked his old friend on his phone, and the development does not rule out that the police officer identified by the blaze could be the pipe bomber. However, the theory would now rest solely on the gate analysis, or that some other factor may be at play. The female officer has since moved, and no one answered the door. When knocked on, the Blaze reporter had somebody come to the door, before their deal, but they declined to speak about anything. A January 2025 congressional report on the January 6th pipe bomb investigation. They compiled. It was compiled by the staff for Representatives Barry Loudermilk, who's a Republican from Georgia, and Thomas Massie, the Republican from Kentucky. Described a lead on someone who seemed to be photographing locations where bombs were later placed. According to the FBI, after taking pictures of the dumpster, person of interest 2, as they call it, walked around the Capitol complex, met with 2 unidentified subjects, returned to the same alleyway behind the RNC, and then entered the Capitol South Metro station and rode the metro to Falls Church, Virginia. Notably, agents assigned to the case team determined that the person of interest 12 used a person of interest 2. This is the person we're talking about here. Used an Uber account and Metro Smart Trip card registered to a separate individual who lived in Falls Church, Virginia, according to the internal emails obtained by the subcommittee. The FBI case team considered this person of interest 2's movements to be highly suspicious and considered them as a possible accomplice to the pipe bomber. The FBI claims it has been unable to identify who set pipe bombs at party headquarters, despite using elaborate high-tech measures to identify hundreds of January 6 protesters for minor crimes like trespassing and things like that, right? They seem to be able to find everybody like that, but they can't find this individual. There are significant questions, of course, about those bombs and the reaction to them, including by police and Kamala Harris, who was at the DNC while the pipe bomb was there, but never mentioned that fact. And in fact, surveillance footage shows that after the suspect placed the pipe bombs on January 5th, he or she waved to the police to a police officer, according to the FBI. So, still some facts coming out, still a lot of confusion on it. And again, one of the questions is, why has it been so hard to identify this individual when it was so easy to identify all the J6 guys? So anyway, we'll keep an eye on it and we'll see how that goes. Couple of things here we want to cover just really quickly before we get out of here today. A conservative group announced Wednesday that it plans to spend tens of millions of dollars to help maintain pro-life majorities in Congress. That's awesome. Susan B. Anthony, Pro-Life America, and its partner Political Action Committee, Women Speak Out, that's the Political Action Committee, Women Speak Out, will spend $80 million to fund canvassing, digital advertising, voter contact mail, and early voting campaigns in key state and House races across the country. The group said it hopes to make at least 4.5 million visits across the country, with a focus on battleground races in Iowa, Georgia, Michigan, and North Carolina. So this is good. This is what needs to happen, because the pro-life side of things in the Republican Party is one that needs to be active in order for Republicans to continue to maintain majorities. Well, let's end tonight with a kind of I have to tell you, I am almost tempted to do this myself. Well, a Minnesota man visiting Ireland stopped at a famous ice cream shop to attempt the Guinness World Record for fastest time to eat a 130-gram ice cream cone. I love ice cream. I think I could do this. Spring Lake Park resident James Clark paid a visit to Teddy's in Dunlyre and attempted the ice cream eating speed record, which was previously set at 24.97 seconds. Teddy's shared a video on Facebook showing the ice cream cone weighing in at 130 grams before Clark attempted his feat. Now, the footage shows Clark completing his attempt in 24.72 seconds, appearing to take the record, although it must be reviewed and certified by the Guinness Book of World Records. And Clark said that the record would be his 35th Guinness World Record title. Now, I'm watching this video, and I'm sure I could eat that ice cream cone faster. I mean, it took him almost 25 seconds to do it. I think I'm pretty sure I could do that. Might have to take a trip to Ireland. We'll have to see what happens. All right. Well, I would love to hear your thoughts on it and everything that we've covered today. Of course, you can always do that at uncommonsensepodcast.com. And thank you for listening.
This podcast is a production of Morganite Communications.